So, I mean, this is kind of a part two. We just would have talked about in our previous little outing here that there's so much going on in the world of DC, but also specifically with Superman. There is a rumor that they plan to sort of replace him and kind of either shoehorn Supergirl into everything. If there's a Trinity, if there's a Justice League, instead of having Superman where he's traditionally been, to use Supergirl with it. Which, again, as I've always maintained, it just seems like it makes you frown, and it seems like it's almost a great idea, but you don't need to shoehorn Superman out of the way, right? You don't need to get rid of him, but Supergirl's an interesting one because she's so closely tied to Superman, and it's a wonderful and incredibly great character and a unique character in her own right, in the different forms. But that I never thought of it in the concept of like she's completely separated, and even the TV show, which it seemed like they were going to go that way, and then they brought him in short order. They brought him in and brought in all the kind of elements. And the main problem for me is when they start using up, because this is what the TV show has done a lot, and that would be my big fear. They haven't even done 1% of all the great Superman stories that are out there. So if they start ruining, not to say they would ruin them, they could work, but it's just not right in my position to take Superman's best stories and then use Supergirl to tell those stories, right? Because then you can never, you could come back to it because, Chris Nolan did a great version of a Batman film with the Joker, even though he had been done before in movies and on the cartoons and stuff that were, the cartoon became a cult classic hit. There's a third version that then Nolan was able to come back and do, and they've done it again in the new DCEU, and they're going to do it again with the Joaquin Phoenix one, right? So I get that you can keep doing that, but it just seems like to do it this way just seems like not right. I'm very conflicted on that. I don't know how you all feel out there, and I don't know how you feel, EDO.
Well, I think one of the more interesting aspects of it is, here's the thing. It's going to have to depend on how it breaks down because, when it comes to story arcs, one of the main reasons why, very often they take Superman stories and shoehorn her in there is because there's not a lot of individual stories that she has been a part of or well received with, So it's like it's very hard. Her character is one of the most closely tied characters to Superman, right? Where it's like, okay, Batwoman is connected to Bruce Wayne in that they're cousins or used to be married, whatever. But for the most for more intents and purposes, they've always kind of, now she's her own individual character. She's she's an LGBT character. She has a military background. There's all these things about her that they have developed that makes her kind of stand alone. Wonder Woman has a lot of individual characters about her where she was she's Amazon, so you just basically can put her into the Greek mythology and she can go and take on Greek mythology, a la Kratos from God of War, right? And it's like, okay, you can run those angles, or you can move her around in her pieces, with mythological characters, and it would work. The problem with Supergirl is that she doesn't necessarily have those definitive stories. They've tried to kind of give her some, like they gave her the cyborg Superman in the New 52. They tried to make her. She turned evil at one point, and that's why she has that's where you see her in the black outfit. Because I think it was red kryptonite corrupted her, and so she was Supergirl, but she was corrupted, and so she had like anger issues, and so she was. There was that angle of it. And then the new one, which is right after the whole Brainiac thing and the cyborg Superman, was, she was a part of the Red Lantern. Basically, that's actually honestly kind of the big thing about her is that, like, the main aspect of her as a character is that, she has a more intense temperament than Superman does when he gets upset. So outside of that, there's not necessarily a thing about her that makes her more unique, because all of her stories piggyback off of Superman. She gets into fights with Brainiac because, they're both from Krypton. She deals with Zod because they're both from Krypton. The Phantom Zone and people from the Phantom Zone because she was around when Krypton was still around. Like a lot of those things often are just tied back with Superman.
Here's what I don't get though. I mean, and see, here's the thing. How do you break that? Because I don't know. Maybe I guess I'm speaking for myself, but mainly for myself. But I've noticed a lot of people, the things that they say, the way they explain it to me, it seems like they think the same way. In that, you pick up a Nightwing comic or anything, a Batgirl comic, and yeah, they're tied to Batman and stuff, right? But it seems like you said, if Nightwing gets into a deal and he fights against Black Mask and then winds up crossing over with the Red Hood and then crosses over with Batgirl, you're I don't know what the right word for it is. I guess, has he been established enough, the Nightwing, the different Robins, Batgirls, have they been established enough that they can do that? Nobody seems to go, it's just a ripoff of, Batman, and why can't they get separate from, there are people that love the Bat family and love the Nightwing character. Then what would they have to do to establish Supergirl like that, where it's like, yes, okay, now, yes, it's tied to it, but Supergirl would be given that same respect that it seems like Nightwing and Batgirl get. What would they have to do to get her, more independent that way?
Well, the thing about Nightwing and those characters is that what they've done was they've been able to establish the character bouncing off of Batman, because the thing that connects them all to Batman is, Batman is in a fight with Joker. All right, well, how would Nightwing handle this situation, and how would the Joker address it differently? And so, that's kind of the thing that they started to build with Nightwing on, is that, Nightwing is different in these areas than Batman is. Red Hood is different in these areas than Batman is. Jason Todd is different in these areas than Batman is, and vice. You can go all the way down the line. And the thing is that they've consistently tried to. They just haven't given her that definitive aspect, and it's there. It's there in a lot of ways, because she is a Kryptonian who knows Kryptonian heritage.
Right.
She has been on the planet. She lived on the planet. She has memories of the planet. So she has a more closer connection to the family, to the House of L than Superman does. She has so she has a more intense temperament. Okay, well, that helps out if you're writing stories about how she would handle a Luthor or a Brainiac or even a Doomsday, right? How would she handle those battles, if she has a shorter temper than Kal-El does. You have enough things there. They just don't necessarily pull on them. They end up just kind of, instead of writing the character, okay, this is how she handles this different from Superman, they just, more or less, in like in the TV show on the CW and stuff like that, they just say, okay, well, she's going to be Superman, so she's going to handle it the same way, or, it's going to be, it's going to be something similar but different, in the sense of, because of these dynamics where, it's like, it's cliche things, right? Because, she has Jimmy Olsen, or she has, her sister, right? And that's how they're different. It's like, okay, that's not and necessarily a solid weight for her. She's not building morals. You're giving her morals through other people,
right?
And that's where the difference sits. Superman has been in those situations, and they've written a character. They're just giving her those moments, and so that's kind of where the divergent from somebody like a Dick Grayson compares to somebody like a Supergirl. And so it just kind of comes down to, you have to lead off, I mean, the best way to put it was you would have to lead off with Superman, giving her the, or at least kind of, going with her about, hey, this is what it looks like, this is what it takes, and then give her some differences in ideology enough that she's her own individual person. She has a different thought process than Superman does, and then you act on that. You think to yourself, Superman would do this and she does this differently, and then you build that slowly with the character. That way, when the character does step up and branch off on her own, she has those things built in.
The TV show has done a great job of that because they've created this little inner circle that she has. They've taken some good steps there. That's why, like I said, it seems like it's an easy thing to do, but well, I mean, I guess they would be going all again. I'm for it. This is always the little. This is the asterisk. How could they make it work the best? That's my big thing that I'm thinking about. Is, well, of course, we don't know because we don't know if they're going to full reboot, if they're going to half reboot it. We don't know what they're going to do, but the way things sit now, like you said, there would have to be some carryover, kind of the way they've hinted at Henry Cavill would sort of appear or cameo with Shazam. I don't know. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, right? It seems like they don't get that, or they don't want to do that. That Shazam should have a big appreciation for Superman. He wants to look up to Superman. It's sort of the guiding light for how he's going to handle himself with his powers. And so Supergirl could be the same thing, because you could do that, and then, like you said, Superman goes off. Kind of like, not to bring up the original film, I don't mean to remake the original Supergirl, but yeah, there was that idea that he literally just flew off somewhere else, and she kind of swooped in. But it seems like they don't even want to do that, though, and that's what worries me. I mean, do you think this universe can work at all? And do you think Superman could survive it if they just say, all right, we're done with Superman, the movies don't work, we get all kinds of negative feedback, Henry Cavill's, we're going back and forth, let's just give up on the Superman experiment and let's run Supergirl. I mean, do you think that it can work at all that way and that Superman could survive it as a character?
I mean, yeah. Superman was once a blue and red crayon, and at one point in time, he looked like Rambo. And, one time he had 90s Ray-Bans on his head. I mean, the 90s basically... If these characters can
everything you laid out, you're all talking about all the 90s stuff.
Well, I mean, it was literally the bottom of the barrel. He merged with Captain America, and he was Superman with the Captain America shield. If these characters can go through the 90s and survive that to a point where there's still good stories that come out of it. There's still moments that make the character relevant, like, whatever happened to Truth, Justice, and the American Way, For Tomorrow, those comic books that make the character, okay, hey, this is a Superman comic book, then you can diverge away and have Supergirl steal his stories and then bring it back with the character. I feel like we've gotten to a point where, you're always going to have stupid people. You're always going to have people that, will stand up and be like, oh, this is a story stolen from, Supergirl. That episode was stolen ripped right from Smallville. Smallville created that story first, right? Constantine, the show Constantine on NBC was completely lampooned for stealing everything that Supernatural did, even though everything Supernatural did stole from Constantine originally, because Constantine is the first one of that. And
they were making fun of Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman outfit, saying that she had copied Xena, Princess Warrior.
So things like that, nods, appreciations, and stuff. I mean, it's so common and it's so around nowadays. It's like you're never going to escape it, and then you're never going to escape people just not knowing better, or wanting to just, or just trolls wanting to be trolls. So I feel like, for all intents and purposes, it just comes down to, at the end of the day, can you tell a good story or not? Can you direct a good version of this or not? Because that's going to be where it makes. That's why Nolan was able to bring Batman back into relevance from nipples and cod pieces.
So like you said, let's do it now. Let's tell that good Batman. But Chris Nolan didn't say, let's tell that good Batman story, but let's do it with Nightwing, or let's do it with John Paul Valley. He did it with Batman and Bruce Wayne and brought that back. With Superman, like you said, it sounds nice, but now we've reached a point where they kept saying that and they never delivered. No one ever delivered, and then now it becomes, yeah, we're gonna do it this time, but not with Superman. We're getting rid of him. It's Supergirl time. What the f?
No, and I get that. I understand the fear. The fear is the character will end up becoming like the Shadow, where the character has been copied and replaced so many times that when he comes out with his own film in the 90s, he's being mocked and ridiculed for being a Batman clone. I understand that. In this time, in this era, the difference is, again, everybody thought Batman was dead in the water with bat nipples. They thought that Batman was worse off than what he was with Adam West. And then again, as soon as he got up to prevalence with the comic book and then the Burton films, you end up destroying that once again, that all that good graces and everything. And they were still able to pull him out of that gutter that they had built for themselves.
And once again, you're talking about after the high of the 80s. So after Frank Miller's run and after, Alan Moore's Killing Joke and all that. But again, that's post 80s Batman, which was peak Batman. And then there's a natural descent, the ebb and the flow. With Superman, there is no ebb and the flow. We've gone from nothing to more nothing with more promises that we're going to get something that turns out to be more nothing. It's not the same comparison. The track record here just is not, it doesn't leave you with a ton of confidence. Maybe Supergirl can take some of the edge off of people hating Superman, and it will provide a brand new track for Superman to then come back in and fly on. We're back to this all over again. It's the wait and see game and having to hold on to a glimmer of hope. Oh, it's okay. But just to finish off, I mean, all this could be a lot worse. All this could be in the hands of the butcher of episode 7. Ba-doom-ts.